Samurai Jack Season 5 premiere, 92. Really enjoyed this episode. It's great to have the series back. It's a show, I think this went off, I don't even remember how long ago this thing went off. I'm pretty sure we were still in single digits when this series actually ended. So it's pretty crazy to think that after all this time we finally have the final season, which unfortunately is only 10 episodes long, but we're getting 10 episodes and, they're going to be pushing the story to the actual final chapter of Samurai Jack's storyline. So I can't wait to see what they do. We have the 50-year time skip, which I think is a very interesting way to go about the series, and it kind of helps people who don't remember the show from a long time ago, like me. I haven't seen an episode of Samurai Jack in I don't know how long. I wanted to catch up beforehand, but with all the other shows I watched for my reviews, I didn't have time to go through 52 other episodes, to watch, all 4 seasons of the series before 5 actually started. But they are all on Adult Swim for anyone who might still want to try to, go back through the entire series while watching the final season. I would love to do that too, but once again, I don't think I really have the time. But really enjoyed this first episode. Very dark first episode. Of course, with it being on Adult Swim, we get to see some of the bloodier elements, like with Aku's daughters, especially with Ashi, I believe is her name. She ends up being the leader, and she had an interesting journey where it starts off and she's the one who's considered to be the weakest, and she when she gets knocked out by like just that super buff woman, she ends up seeing like this crack in the wall, and she sees like everything that's out there, and that's like her first glimpse of the rest of the world. And they kind of built up this really small story of how initially she was, she may not have been the one that had the most talent, right off the bat, but she's the one who grew the most, and she became the most talented. Like when they're climbing up the cliffs and stuff, she's taking people out, she's like dodging arrows, and she grabs one and then like stabs the woman in the face. And even her sisters, they're just like Ashi. Like she comes up, she's the only one that ends up getting a weapon, and she's just taking other people out to help her sisters. And I thought that was cool. I was like, all right, they made a little journey. I knew she was going to be the main character out of the sisters, because even in the trailer, she's the one that gets the most focus. So I'm curious to see how they'll play around with that, especially with it being only 10 episodes. And they're all kind of the same character when you think about it. So I think Ashi will be the one that really gets the focus, and the rest of the girls will kind of just be there, and they all have different hairstyles, so that's pretty much about it. But none of the other girls are actually even named in this episode, so maybe we'll get to see that. Maybe we won't. With it being Samurai Jack, you never know. Even the main character, the Jack isn't even his real name, so who knows? Ashi might be the only one of these girls that we even know the name of, and everyone else, it'll just be like, they're her sisters, that's it. So we'll see what happens with that, but I love their training sections, and it was interesting the way it started off, because at first I was curious. I was like, all right, well, we know Aku is still in control, but they kind of made it seem like he was dead or something because of the way they were doing like the shrine thing. I'm like, okay, so they're, trying to honor Aku, and they're talking to like the statue and stuff. Is it like they're trying to appease his spirit after it's gone or something, because he had the whole statue thing going? And I'm like, all right, well, I guess something, it seemed weird. I was like, well, something might be happening. But then at the end of the episode, when Jack ends up fighting against the flute playing robot, he just calls him. He like calls up Aku, and that was pretty much it. I was like, okay, so he's cool, he's alive. He uses phones now, so that's interesting. 50 years will do that. Or 1,000, however long it's actually been. But I was like, okay, that just made it seem interesting. Maybe these girls, considering Aku basically runs the entire planet, this could easily just be a thing that he has nothing to do with. And it's just like, yeah, we're evil, and we were raised in this world where Aku was always the leader, so we're evil. And so that's why we made like our own little cult to praise Aku, and they made their statues inside a mountain and all that stuff. So this could really have nothing to do with Aku, and they just basically built up a cult and then eventually raised these girls. So I don't know if that's really the case or what the deal is, but it seemed like Aku didn't really have anything to do with that, which I found very interesting. So we'll see what happens. They might just be doing that just to, take out Jack and be like, hey, we're honoring you with taking out your greatest villain. So see what happens there, but I really enjoyed them for, the little bit we got. The next episode is when they actually went into Jack, and they seem to tear him apart based off of the promo. So very excited to see how that plays out. But the action was good. Jack saving, the mother and daughter in the beginning of the episode, and he like just chops up all the bug-looking robots, and he's got like his motorcycle with the spikes on it, and he's just like grinding them down into nothing. And I was like, man, It's somewhat gritty, but they're all robots, so it's not super crazy. But I'm like, man, if these were anything other than robots, this would be a really bloody and intense, gory scene. But he's grinding down the robots and taking them down and shooting them up and stuff like that. So very cool opening sequence. Really enjoyed him fighting the robot, who has some pretty cool weapons, to say the least. Especially the like the tuning fork blade, where it basically increased the frequency in objects that it hit until they exploded. I love that. I thought that was cool, and I'm hoping that Jack gets to keep that weapon. The girls take it from him in the promo, but I'm hoping that he at least escapes from them and maybe one of them drops it or something. With it being 10 episodes and I believe 6 girls, I feel like not all of them are going to live. I think it'll get down to it where they start to get picked off and Ashi will be the last one. It's like basically the sub-boss before Jack eventually gets to Aku in the final episode. Personally, that's just what I guess for these characters. Ashi will keep losing her sisters more and more and have more of a vengeance against Jack, and eventually he'll have to take her out before he can get to Aku. So that's my guess for that. But really excited to see how that plays out. Of course, he doesn't have his sword. They have a flashback to that where he loses it, and of course he still destroys that robot, which is cool. And this thing was almost like a magic robot. It was like playing the flute and it could control rocks and stuff like an earthbender, and then it's just whistling and stuff, and it's like an airbender, and it's just lifting the blade all over the place. And then it has like the frequency fork. And I'm like, what in the world type of robot can do this weird stuff? Like, it was just really weird how he was controlling stuff. And I was like, this seems way more like just a robot with magic to me. But considering the world of Samurai Jack, that actually does work just a little bit. So definitely an entertaining fight there. And I of course love the way that he beat him. And he learned his lesson. Like, the thing blew up in his hand. It was like, all right, well, this will be easy. And then he just throws the blade, and the thing's like, like, I win and all this stuff, and he's scatting and everything. And it's like, sweet, I beat you, sorry, but, and then he's just like, and he just throws it right at him, and it just blows up on the side of his face, and then he takes him down, just chops him straight down. Not exactly in the middle, it was kind of like a 2/3 sort of deal. It was like just a little bit off, and he just split him down. I was like, well, he's dead. All the oil shoots out of him and stuff sideways, which I love visually how they did that, because it was almost like there was no gravity, and it was just like it just expelled out slowly, and I was like, that looks really cool the way they did that. But really enjoyed the ending fight, enjoyed the beginning fight. Of course, the emotion in between, very intense, with Jack kind of losing his mind. It's like been the 50 years, and for whatever reason, time doesn't have much of an effect on him, or any effect on him. He just gets long hair and the beard and stuff. So, we'll see where it goes. But it was cool to see him like in the armor that he wears in this episode. I thought looked really cool. He had like the Oni mask and stuff, which is very fitting. But really enjoyed that. Him legitimately going crazy, I loved. I was like, I can't wait to see what they do with this, where he's like, my whole journey in the beginning of the series, the first 4 seasons, was supposed to be to eventually get rid of Aku, go back in time to my home, and then basically kind of beat him there too. And it was just really cool that he's dealing with this plus 50 years. The whole 4 seasons he didn't succeed, and then there's 50 years in between that we don't even have, which I'm curious, considering there's only 10 episodes, if we'll get flashbacks to in between the end of the last series and this one. Or, well, there's a comic book that actually takes place after the series as well, so maybe after the comic series in this series, but even that's still basically 50 years. But very good first episode. Of course, it was super awesome. I looked it up on Twitter. Everybody was losing their minds. Of course, at the end of the episode when they played the original theme, of course, that was very awesome. Recently found out that was done by will.i.am. I never knew that, but as soon as I heard that, I was like, that makes sense, because he also did that Dexter's Laboratory song that I never forgot. I always thought that was super catchy. But really happy that the show is back. Can't wait to see, sadly only 10 episodes. It really sucks, but it looks great. The animation is just updated, but it still looks the same. The way they do the visuals, it's still just like, back when the show originally aired, with like, they'll do a slice here and then an attack there, and 3 panels and stuff, almost like a comic book in motion. Looks really good. Once again, little dialogue. Mostly all the dialogue was on the villain side of things. Definitely. Jack freaked out and maybe said a total of like, 5 lines. Possibly, like, actually in the episode, not counting like the narration from the beginning, I think he said like a total of 5 lines in the whole episode. Very Samurai Jack. But really happy to see what they're gonna do with these last 9 episodes. But really happy to see it back. Of course, the theme song was freaking awesome to hear, so that was great. The action was good, the animation is good, and I can't wait to see what they do with these sisters and how long it takes Jack to kind of build up to finally getting to Aku and, you know, taking them down for the series finale. But of course, would love to know what you guys thought about this premiere, so please comment below. Let me know your favorite parts and least favorite parts were about this episode. And we only got 9 episodes, a very limited series event for the finale to clearly a super popular show. If it ended, I think it was 11 years ago. I'm pretty sure it ended in like 2006 or something like that. It may have been even before that because, you know, there's only 4 seasons. But obviously the show's super popular. I was excited for it to come back. I think everybody pretty much was. A little bit bloodier, so that's really cool, but it's not super over the top, so, you know, people who are younger can be introduced to it now, so that's really cool too. But we'd love to know what you guys are hoping to see in these, you know, this short and final season for Samurai Jack, because there's a lot of history with the series, of course, with 4 seasons. There's some characters that are in there. There's one in particular, and I already know whether or not this character will show up, but there's one in particular that I think people might be interested in seeing kind of make a reappearance in the show, outside of Aku, of course, but I'm excited to see what they do. I don't really know what to expect from it, but I'm assuming that a lot of the episodes will focus on the sisters and Jack trying to get past them and like this crazy cult, if that's what it is, to finally reach Aku and just, I guess, find out where he is and finally get the redemption that at this point is kind of eating at him, which was a really great sequence. Him just running away from, you know, his own failure and stuff. So I love that. But like I said, would love to know what you guys want to see in these final episodes. And of course, I want to know what you guys thought about the premiere in general. So please put your comments down in the comment section below. And of course, thanks for watching.